I was just watching some more YouTube videos, and it dawned on me that I really didn't cover. I didn't render the whole picture, the whole idea of the injustice going on in the courthouse of the American system. Um, so I'm doing a little, hopefully no longer than 2 minute or 3 minute long attachment to the video I just made. Um, when in the States, when you are accused um, of something and it becomes the state versus the citizen, in other words, the state of California on, sort of on behalf, quote unquote, in defense of somebody who has not perhaps pressed charges, but the state finds that you have um, acted violently, or the state believes that you have robbed or have done something to that person, even though the person does not press charges. It becomes the state versus the person versus the citizen. The situation of the sport of you being in the middle of a tug of war between two lawyers that I described before becomes um, quadrupled. What happens is you have police investigators, you have the lawyers or the district attorney, the attorneys, the district attorney of the courthouse, not the district attorney, I forgot the name of the prosecutor of the courthouse, all kind of teaming up on building a case against you. And like I said, finagling, tweaking, lying, hiding it, creating cases, constructing a type of scenario, constructing an accusation to get that person to be guilty in this sort of competition to try to see who wins. On the side of the citizen, you have a public appointed a publicly appointed lawyer who usually have a demeanor of, I'm all you got, we're going to try the best we can. But usually it's that person, your public defendant, facing this enormous apparatus whose sole goal seems to be to find you culprit, find you, create a case, build a case against you. So already the situation is not looking at the human reality. I mean, already the workings, the mechanics, the mechanism of the system is not looking at the human reality of the situation. Instead, it has created a competition to see who can prove you guilty or who can prove you innocent between two polar extremes. But in that case, where the state mounts a case against you, it becomes an enormous. It's so overwhelming. If you ever found yourself in that case, you're in the United States, you're in disbelief. You don't understand why there are police investigators accusing you, but you really did it for this reason. Come on. And the attorneys and the prosecutors and everybody. And sometimes when you walk into that courthouse and all you got is your little public defendant, it looks like a scene out of Salem. It's unbelievable. It feels and it looks like a situation where the person is going to be lynch mobbed. Everybody seems to be in cahoots on how to win this case against you, or how to make it as blameful or as accusatory as possible. And there you are. You usually lose. And if you're lucky because you had a good public defendant who managed to sort of throw out some cases, usually it has to do with it not being convenient. For it could cost too much money. It's going to be too complicated for them to prove you guilty. It has hardly ever anything to do with the reality of justice in that real circumstance. It all has to do with the efficiency, with people not wasting time. It's so unbelievably detached from looking at the social reality of the situation, aiming towards bettering society, or helping that person leave that what seems to what could have been a downward spiral in the life and that person's civil behavior, and get them to recuperate their life. It really seems like they finally found somebody who's going to make the system work for them, give everybody their salaries, justify everybody's salaries, and it becomes sort of the food, sort of the fuel for the whole thing to work. It has nothing to do with righteousness in reality, with the human capacity to see accountability, to see where things are going wrong, what is allowing for things to happen in society this way. It has nothing to do with healing, with doing good to society. It all has to do with these people having work, and for them to have work and get their salaries paid every week, they must exacerbate, they must increase the complicatedness, the workings of this whole apparatus. And if it just so happens that it's the state against the citizen standing on his own, forget it. If even, let's just say, like I was getting at just a few seconds ago before I got sidetracked again. Let's just say your public defendant manages to prove something invalid, or it becomes not so efficient for the prosecutor to mount the accusation that he had first planned and drawn against you. Let's just say that doesn't happen. Oh boy, I just lost the point I was going to make. I'm going to pause it. Right. And you're able to walk away without getting thrown time in jail at you, or some misdemeanors or what have you, or a felony that was dropped, that they tried to see if they could get, they could apply and throw against you, but then it got thrown out, let's say. Your life in America is completely damaged if the truth is that what happened was something medial that could be constituted as, I don't know, a misdemeanor, or some loitering in public, or something that could have easily been overlooked forever for the rest of your life. It became something bigger, more traumatic to your record. Your life is ruined. You go try to get the whole thing is that the justice system is not about healing and bettering lives, which is what it's supposed to do for a country. People who get involved, tangled, snagged into the system, they have a harder time getting work, they have a harder time getting credit, they have a harder time getting themselves back on their feet. There's no attention to people that obviously they did not have a good upbringing. Part of the social decadence that has led them to have these problems has to do with them not having had an education, with their not being containment in their lives, to do with work and education and good people shoring up their lives. There's nothing about the judicial system that tries to get that person onto a path of rebuilding, of bettering, of nurturing with the right stuff instead it actually there are some attempts at this sort of thing. People go into shelters and um, but really there is no attention to this. There is no rebuilding sequence of a person's life. It's very poor as far as work. Basically they don't help you get work. It's all up to you. They expect miracles from people that have known nothing but suburban, decayed, degraded life. They don't really encourage. There's classes, classes that are given around these shelters sometimes, and not all of them, which are meaningless. There's nothing that is a quality education towards very few people, very few counties, very few places do they actually have something that could possibly work for rebuilding a person's life. In most cases, in the vast majority of numbers, it's just a downward spiral for these people, starting with injustice. In other words, it's almost like a person's life is going not getting any better. They're meeting the wrong person. They get involved. They get desperate. They want to make it in society. They start going about it the wrong way. Each time it gets worse, and then they get to a point where they collide with the law. From there, you would think that a country that has such an institution to guide the nation, to protect the citizenship, to help society be strong, healthy, and proliferous, thriving. Once that happens, you would think, well, you hit rock bottom. From there, you saw the worst. It can only go up. No, in the States, once you collide with the law, it's an acceleration towards degradation. It gets worse. The people you meet are people that have done worse than you. If you happen to be so unfortunate as to being arrested, thrown in jail for a few days when you're 19, 20, 22, and you came from more or less wholesome, safe, innocent environment of family and friends, you're instantly shown your standards. The bar immediately goes down. You see murderers, people that will kill. If you're thrown in a county jail, your new parameters become not heightened, so that you see how low you've gotten and how you must aim to come out of that pit and aim high and come out to something that is hopeful, that is possible somehow. No, what you see is the whole festering under we call it underground. No, not underground. Oh Jesus, I forgot the name of it. Ugly underworld that exists in the country and in society. So now your parameters are, not only did you not think you could get very far in life, but where you thought you couldn't really go any further down, now it turns out that you can go really down. So your life, the two parameters of your life, thanks to the judicial system, thanks to this idea that a few days in jail will do you good, becomes the full span becomes, it doesn't get better. Your aspirations, your place for better aspirations to appear does not materialize. But the part where you see there's a greater population of people that are like you or worse situations, many more options and possibilities of things happening bad to you, many more variants of things that can be worse or more terrible that happen to more people and more different kinds of people. So your whole panorama of life does not in any way, it's almost like you take somebody who's not doing good in life and you make it possible for them for their life to go worse instead of better, which I think at some point we believed not that long ago that thanks to the judicial system that would not happen. That the point would be that once you got exposed to jail or the police or what have you, you would be scared straight, right? And your life you would be pressured to improve your life. The reality, the true realistic effect of the way things are set up and they actually work in people's lives today is exactly the opposite of that. Nobody's life gets better once they meet the police, once they go to court. Once it doesn't. It actually gets worse because so very, very subconsciously, what our mind, which is always is, which is never separated from the essential source reality that we must belong to the collective, that everything we do is reflected or educated upon us, or we return, we give back to. There's always an unseverable bond to the collective. Everything that we now equate to developing in life it's almost like adding, if you're trying to mix paint and you're trying to come up with a color, once you've added too much of a certain color, you can never reach that original color that perhaps was lighter, let's say, that you wanted to make initially. You're now stuck with making some kind of brown, some kind of gray, some kind of darker color because you cannot get rid of that excess. Well, that's what happens in the States, and the proof is self-evident. We have per country population, the largest percentage of people in jail, the largest, possibly the largest, because if you don't consider that going against the government or being a revolutionary is unlawful, it's for as unfair as we may think it is, it's still transgressing the law in whatever dictatorial country we're talking about. If you don't consider that as a factor, we probably have the largest number of innocent people who did not commit the crime in jail per population of the country, the United States. Very likely. Very likely. I doubt that countries, Iran, China, Russia, have people in jail that because they just, they were arrested for something else, and it was a bogus accusation. They intentionally arrested them because they're political dissidents or whatever. The point is that there is an intention to have them arrested for other reasons, and they make some bogus accusation. But the United States probably has the highest number of people who are, how can I say this? Truly, people believe that they were thrown in jail because they did do a certain crime. The lawyers, the judges, everybody believes, or they dismiss it at very superficially believing that person did that. And in reality, they didn't. They're wrongfully accused. They're wrongfully convicted. Possibly the largest population in the world. And it all supports the ill mechanism of our courthouses, of the way the whole state tries to get somebody accused and sentenced, and all you got is this one public attorney. And well, then of course we could just keep adding layers to this, what stuff that everybody talked about already, which is money buys you freedom. Basically, if you have money to pay for a good lawyer, your chances become a little more balanced. But that is not the reality of if you go to the prison, it's irrelevant. That is that tale of America, the tale of how if you have money, it buys you a good lawyer, is irrelevant to the people who are in jail. If you go and ask everybody who's in jail whether they had a public attorney or they paid for their own attorney, you'll see a different picture. You'll see that many people are in jail because they had a public attorney and the whole state acted against them in the accusation. And if they're not innocent, they probably have an abusive, monstrous sentence of 50 or 60 years or 20 years for something that only a year or two would have sufficed. They have grotesquely abusive sentences because they had a public attorney and the whole state acted against them, and they threw the book at them, and they were not able to do anything about it. And the public attorney said, "Oh well," and that's it. And well, I could go on and on and on, and this ended up being almost 22 minutes. I said it was going to be 3 minutes, but it's an attachment, a direct attachment to the video I did before. Thank you.